Well, howdy, friends. Brian Flechsig of Mad River Outfitters and the Midwest Fly Fishing Schools, and welcome back to another fly tying episode where today we have very special guest, Mr. Ian Rutter from R&R Fly Fishing. Well, Ian, so today we're going to tie a nymph.
Yes.
That has a story, a Smoky Mountain story.
Absolutely. This is the George Nymph,
Okay.
created by Eddie George, kind of back in the Depression era. And Eddie George in East Tennessee, kind of through the 50s, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, was kind of a local legend around here.
Okay.
Really well ahead of his time in fly fishing and fly tying. And he's kind of, I think because our area isn't like Jackson Hole or Roscoe, New York, I don't think his story was quite picked up by the national fly fishing scene the way maybe the Deddies up in New York or, folks out of the Rocky Mountain West. But a pretty cool story with this fly. Works just as good today as it did then. And the reason why this is such a legendary fly is that during the Depression, to make money, young Eddie George would fish Little River around Elkmont and catch as many fish as he could, and he would hitch a ride into Gatlinburg and he would sell those trout to the restaurants.
Okay.
And then this kid, teenager, was seen with so many fish every day coming into town, and the question, if somebody's asked who is seen catching a bunch of fish, what are you catching them on?
Well, yeah,
And he had this fly that he had tied, and he found he was able to make as much or more money selling his flies than selling the trout to the restaurant. Yeah. So he was able to, make money with this, and later, when I opened a fly shop and everything else around here, kind of pioneered tailwater fishing around here in this part of the world when it was brand new after TVA started building the dams. He was the first one to kind of go in there and figure out how to catch the tailwater fish too. But let's get started here. I usually tie it in like a 14. You can do it at 12. I know a lot of folks fish them in a 16. They've done that over on the tailwaters for years. It's not as popular as it was back in the 80s and early 90s. But start off putting a little bit of weight on it.
Got it. I can tie any knot, anything. I am invincible. I don't know where I would be without my click magnifiers. Of course, available at madriveroutfitters.com. Click in.
Oh, you good there?
Sorry, I had to click in.
Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy in here.
Yeah,
okay.
And it always surprises people, and they're not expecting that.
So I put a little bit of an underbody on the back part of the fly with some 015. I used lead-free just because I tie so many flies. I don't want to be rubbing my fingers on that lead all the time.
Is lead outlawed in the park?
It is not.
Okay.
But for me, that's a personal health choice.
Sure.
If we don't want it in our water or paint, I probably shouldn't be rubbing it all over my fingers. That's just me. Okay, so it's going to kind of be in the back half of the hook. I'm going to leave some back here at the bend, but we're going to get that on there. And now I'm going to, using some black thread, 6/0.
And you're just using a basic nymph hook?
Yeah, basic hook. I tend to use dry fly hooks for just about everything. That way I don't have to get confused or what's this, what's that. A nymph hook would have a heavier shank to it, so that would be good. I'm adding some stuff here, but I also feel like since this is a Depression era fly, feel free to kind of mix and match a little bit. There's several elements of this fly that I've seen tied, and I'll talk about that as I go. So this is probably one of the most unique parts of this fly is the tail. And just use some, tailing hackle off the webby part of your dry fly neck. You can use hand hackle, whatever, but just brown. And roughly maybe half, 2/3 the hook shank, but you tie it actually canted down a little bit, not straight off the hook as we want. And I kind of wonder sometimes if Eddie George wasn't sort of onto the shrimp hook scud pattern, the way I actually like to tie my pheasant tails like that. And I think maybe he was onto that, trying to make his nymphs looking like they were drifting in the current, kind of curled up,
posture,
not completely, splayed out.
Yeah, I was reading. I actually did a little research and read about this, a little bit about this nymph in your book.
Yeah.
And saw that curvature in the tail. I think you mentioned that in the book.
Yeah, of course, because people will be like, your tail's janky there, and you're like, well, no, actually, that's. And if it hurts your heart to have a canted tail, tie it straight. I don't care. I think the fish will eat it anyway.
Well, I think for this pattern, that was maybe, like you said, one of the secrets of that pattern was that it was tied in more of a postured, and all he did was, so all Ian just did was wrapped back down over the bend a little bit.
Just kind of push it down a little bit.
Canted that tail downwards, so that's probably what was going on.
That's right. So now it's got like a little shell back that only goes for about half, 2/3 of the body, but we're going to do that. I've got some, I got a lot of pheasant tail handy, so I use pheasant tail. Turkey is also great, and turkey may be more to the true nature of it. We don't have pheasants here in the Smokies, but turkeys, so I can imagine turkey being easier. They look very similar when you use them for a shellback, so I don't really let it bother me too much that I've used one instead of the other. Get those kind of weak tips off of there. Tie that on.
So you're tying in just a eighth of an inch of wide piece.
Yes, so it kind of
tying it in by the tips.
Yeah, I do that. I cut those tips off, and then as it gets denser going forward, it seems to have a little more natural way it goes over the top here later. So, but we're tying a bunch of stuff in back here at the tail. We've tied in the tail, we're tied in the shell back. Now we're going to tie in a little piece of copper wire as well. And that's really as much as anything to keep this thing from getting busted apart when we're fishing it.
And this is just like a brassy size or a small?
Yeah, it's just something fine.
Copper wire.
Yeah. You don't want it to overpower the size of it. Now, we've got some peacock curl. And you know what? Classic fly does not incorporate peacock curl. That's something, seems like it's going away in the kind of the newer patterns, the current styles.
Nothing better than peacock curl.
But yeah, it's good old. And I kind of always tend to err on the side of too much as to too little. It looks like I got 4 or 5 strands here, and I always kind of clip off the weak tips and tie it in at the tips. And that was, I'm working it, it's kind of stroking it out a little bit, And
we're tying that also at the bend of the hook.
Yeah. When I do peacock, I always tend to make just a little bit of a rope with it because it is relatively weak stuff. So I just kind of made a little loop with my thread, and I just take the peacock and twist it together with the thread. Nothing too elaborate, just a little bit extra reinforcement. And I'm just going to wrap that forward now.
So you more or less just made a dubbing loop, or brought the thread up, made a big loop, and then you just put the peacock curl down in there and kind of twisted it all together.
Yeah. Nice. And that's just, again, I'm just keeping it quick and simple.
Well, you're adding some dirt.
A little bit, just a little bit more.
Yep.
Like I said, I always tie flies with the intention of them getting eaten and eaten a lot. So I'd rather tie 1 as opposed to 5 with them constantly coming apart. So at this point, I'm going to fold over my...
How far up the shank did you go? You left
I left a pretty good bit here. We've got some more stuff that's going to happen. It's more than half, probably about a third. I'm leaving about a third open, so I've got room for the front half and a little bit to tie it off. So I'm going to tie this guy off. There we go. Now it's time to bring the wire in, and I reverse wrap that for a little bit of durability. Keeps everything down, a little bit extra over that. Okay, so we've got the back half done. And we're kind of starting over, and this part is very unusual. I've never seen another fly that does this. He has a little, back on it, but it's you can use any kind of white yarn. I use white poly yarn, and it doesn't need to be like super full body, but we're going to tie this in, and Eddie did not put anything under this other than just the thread. He didn't put any peacock in there, which always seems a little odd. But then he uses some, webby hackle. So again, you can use whatever you like. Got a little piece of less than optimum dry fly hackle here. So there's nothing under this except just a few turns of hackle. And back in those times, a whiting hackle might as well have been a gift from the aliens or something. Mm-hmm. They were probably using barnyard chickens,
right?
Maybe starling hackle, whatever here. So just kind of make a few turns. And it doesn't need to be super tight. And that's really about it right there. We don't need a whole lot. We're not wanting it to float. We're not trying to fill up the gap too much. And if you like, you can kind of bear down on that a little bit. But it just bothers me personally, have stuff sticking up this little, so I just kind of clip just a little bit, just off the top. That's optional. And then we just fold over that piece of poly, tie that guy off. And, kind of like the, like the split back nymph? Is that what it's called? That's kind of a big deal on the tailwaters, South Holston and stuff today. It's sort of like a pheasant tail, but you have a little bit of yellow dubbing in there, and you fold it over and you leave a little bit of that yellow showing to show that it's hatching. And I do know that Eddie talked about this supposing to be like a hatching nymph, or maybe perhaps even like the white on the back of an Isonychia nymph, whatever. But there we are. The good old George Nymph.
That's cool.
And it's kind of interesting there. Kind of unique in today's times, but it still catches fish throughout the Smokies and really anywhere. I know he took it to the Madison in the 50s. He took a group of guys, said that, if I'm remembering right, because I saw Eddie tell this story, that he took a group, I think it was 7 anglers, to the Madison, and they each kept a fish to mount. And they brought back 7 fish that weighed 52 pounds together.
Oh, wow.
And they were using George Nymphs.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's kind of almost a combination of a bunch of different patterns that you might use down here.
Yeah.
But then some cool elements to it. I mean, it's got that little bit of a wing case but white to maybe imitate the emergent nymph. You've got the legs, you got peacock curl, you got pheasant tail in that. That just has all the ingredients, but just the way he put it together.
Yeah.
Was like you said, was probably ahead of his time.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And I know he fished this on the tailwaters around here. After TVA built the things, he was fishing the Smokies before there was TVA. So well before the dams. But yeah, he was fishing that on the little Tennessee over here, which is not even there anymore. It's become a reservoir. But there we go.
There you have it, friends. The George Nymph, a Smoky Mountain classic, and now you know the story behind it. But that's a I will have some of those in my box for sure, and for sure the next time I come down to visit.
Awesome.
So there you have it, friends. You can hop down in the description and see the list of materials for tying the George Nymph. And once again, Ian, thanks again.
Absolutely.
For everything you do. You can check out Ian Rutter and his wife Charity, R&R Fly Fishing. There's a link down in the description below to check them out. You can also check out ianrutterart.com, which we're going to talk about at some point here in videos as well. So thanks again for everything you guys do and have done for us on this amazing trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So as always, friends, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free and it helps it out. Hit that like button. That just makes us feel good. And stay tuned. We've got a lot more content coming at you for fly fishing, of course, but from right here in the Great Smoky Mountains with Ian and Charity Rutter. So stay tuned.